Well, hello.
Hey, thanks for having
Um,
me on, man.
yeah, absolutely. Have you ever seen a stupid intro like that before?
It's funny. You bring that up. One of the things that's been happening a lot very recently is I get a lot of people that they'll leave a review or a comment, and they'll say that my voice is AI. It's something that, and I just think what's happened is that people have gotten so paranoid.
That's I don't I mean, what does an AI voice sound like? Like that's my first question. Like what
That's the
that's
thing is like, yeah, how do you even? The problem with someone accusing you of that, the only thing you could say is like, I tell them, I'm like, look, I've been doing this for close to 10 years, like, like before this AI thing really kicked off.
right.
But you know, you can't. It's almost impossible to defend yourself of that from that kind of accusation. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what an AI would say. It's like,
Yeah.
what? Come on. Well, boys and girls, this is Justin from Obscura. He has joined us. I'm very excited about it. We did this, hell man, what, like 3 years ago? Almost?
Man, I don't even remember. Time goes by so quickly.
Well, that is a good, interesting segue. Um, since then, this guy had a baby. Well, like he didn't have a baby. Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe he is AI. Who knows? Um, but he had a little kiddo, and I've I've directed a lot of people back to our first talk and just your show in general. Um, because I wanted to definitely kind of talk to you about how after your kiddo compared to what you do for work and your topics. I was really wondering if that's changed you. Not changed you, but changed how you approach your work and certain things you'll cover now and certain things you won't and certain things how they affect you.
Yeah, no, it absolutely has to a degree. When I first got back on the saddle, so to speak. So before the baby was born, I got to work and I got a lot of episodes done ahead of time because I knew that there would be, a lot on my plate for the first few months the baby was here. And so I got like 3 months uh, recorded ahead of time, just really, busted my ass. And after that 3 months was over and I had to really, get back to it, get back to writing and researching, it was strange at first. It definitely was strange jumping back into true crime because, you look at that baby and you just see something that's like so innocent, and, you go on a true crime and you're like, okay, well, now time to investigate these murders.
Right.
And yeah, no, it was strange, and yeah, I mean, I think having a child is something that is always going to be perspective changing, and I'm sure like if you chart, the show like how I covered things from the start to how I'm covering them now, there have been a lot of changes.
Yeah. I mean, the wife still hates you. Mostly just because I mean, I tell the story so semi regularly that, I binge. I used to like when I first found you, I was like, okay, I'm digging this. I'm digging this. I listened to it for about a month, like just the regular rollout of episodes. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sub to the Patreon and go through your back catalog. And I made a very, very big mistake. I sat there for 8 hours one day, just listened to you back to back. And then I just stopped talking for like a day. I'm like, I'm not in a good place. I'm good. Leave me alone. Um, and it's not because what you cover is, well, you're covering awful topics, yes, but just the black label. And if you well, here, I'm not going to tell people about your show. You tell people about your show. Let's do that because that's kind of your thing.
Well, what's interesting is that when I started covering true crime, I immediately made the choice myself to stop consuming it myself because I believe that plagiarism through osmosis is a very common thing. You could pick up on other people's gimmicks, their shticks, whatever, what have you, and you can unintentionally incorporate it into your style of coverage. And so what started happening earlier on in the show, I'm in my own bubble, I'm covering the show, and I think about 6 months in, a lot of the content started naturally getting darker. I wasn't covering all the stuff that a lot of other people were jumping onto trends and covering. I'm always in my own lane, and I think naturally the stuff I had my ear to the ground on, uh, trended a little bit darker than everyone else's. And there was an episode I released. It was the Nick Stautzenberger episode, and that episode infuriated a lot of people, and I didn't expect it to, but it upset a lot of people. And yeah, that's what led to there being a distinction. Here is the Obscura episodes, and here is the Black Label episodes, and it's just a way for me to kind of put a divider where sometimes where I think, wow, okay, this one's really dark. It might upset people that are looking for something a little bit more vanilla. So this is going to go in Black Label. Now, at the end of the day, it's not a perfect system. Sometimes what I feel, is lighter ends up being darker to some people, and sometimes what I think is darker ends up being lighter to others. And so, there are no perfect systems as far as that goes, but I do my best to divide them that way. And I think most of the time it's successful, but sometimes you'll have some people will say, oh, well, this Obscure episode was darker than the Black Label episode this month. And it's like, this is just, this is the system I've, created, but nothing's perfect.
Well, I mean, it's not like you're doing sports coverage, right? It's not black and white. I mean, the really cool thing you do, is you do a disclaimer. If in your heart of hearts you're like, "Whoo, boy, this is gonna ruffle feathers," you say, "Hey, listen, this is," without kind of blowing the episode. You're like, "Hey, it's gonna touch on this stuff. No harm, no foul if you bounce out." Um, Now someone has a question here. So, how dark does Black Label get?
Well, there was a Reddit thread recently. Somebody shot me a link, and the thread was full of people very upset because they had happened onto Black Label. And I'm always confused by this because, like you said, I tell people up front what it is, and to me, these subjects are very important. But I have touched on some things that other people will not touch with a 10-foot pole. But to me, I don't know. Like the worst thing that can happen to anyone, right, is death. And so once you're already covering true crime, these sort of like arbitrary distinctions on what you should and should not cover doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So, for example, one of my episodes earlier on, one of the Black Label episodes, I think it was the second one, I had on my mind for a long time to cover the porn industry in some way.
Mhm.
And that one in particular upsets a lot of people. And I mean, I spoke with people from inside the industry directly, and they were happy that I was providing coverage to this. And, I've covered the Animal Crush industry, and that,
Oof.
you know, people weren't too fond of that.
Mhm.
And so the way I've put it is that on occasion, the show, from what I've been told by others, again, I don't listen to other people's work, but I have been told that my show, Black Label, is the darkest. But again, I don't listen to other podcasts, but that's just what I hear from other people that listen to it.
Oof. Oh, Rick, I hate you for asking this, and I hate even putting it on the thing, but whoops, wrong one. I would say safely as possible. You want to let Rick know what that really kind of
Yeah, there's an industry, and I'll try to put it gently. There's an industry of people that like to um, harm animals for the pleasure of others, and that is as PG as I can possibly put it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, And to kind of double back on what Stoney said there earlier when he asked you how dark does Black Label get, well, you fucking hear it. So there's your answer there, Stoney. In regards to the crush industry, you fucking hear it, and it is as heart wrenching as you can imagine. Yeah, I just like that dead stare. That's what it does. My God. One of the recent episodes you did, and I thought about you when you were doing it, was that Tina case, where it's just not taking care of the kids and starving them. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, this dude's a new dad. Just thinking, like, what is going through your head as you're doing that? Or are you just completely cutting off like family and this is work? You're not even thinking there, or like, how does that work now post kiddo?
Yeah. So for me, at the time when I'm picking a case to cover, I'm usually not consciously at the time, oh, this is why I'm picking it. But then a lot of the times when I'm working on the episode, I'm like, okay, this is probably why I picked it. Because, yeah, I will say there has been an uptick in episodes I've done that do um, involve cases like that. And I think it's a subconscious thing, like I'm a new dad, I'm a protector. And part of like the appeal for me in true crime has always been exploring the why. And, that's a big part. So, there are two different ways I try to cover a case. One, I either try to have somewhat of a thesis, whether it's obvious or not. There will often be a point to an episode. I won't explicitly say it. I like to be objective. So, I'll leave the listener to kind of make their own mind up what the point is. Or if not that, I try to create a chronology of the person that committed the crime. And I've had blowback sometimes. I've had the occasional review where people say I'm like providing spoilers or whatever. But for me, the way that I create the podcast, it's not a who done it. That would defeat why I cover true crime. I want to know the why done it. I want to know why it happened. So Tina Brown, what's interesting about that is it's a two-parter. And if you only listen to the first part, you would probably be pretty sympathetic to Tina Brown. And it's not until you get to that second part where things shift.
Yeah. I mean, and props to the cop in that episode, because you pointed out many a times, like, he is doing his best not to punch this bitch in the throat. I mean, there's no other way to put it, because I'm visualizing, because that's another great thing you're good at. You tell the story in such a way and you paint such a picture where you will create these characters and you'll visualize them, and you can see it as you're speaking it, and you then just, because what we do as people, we put ourselves in that situation, and it's like, I don't know if I could be that professional when this, because you could tell she was just being she was trying to be charming. Oh my God. Oh, yep.
Yeah, the cop in that episode, that was what really stood out to me in that is that I would say that's, I've covered a lot of cases over the years, and that is one of the few times where you can narrow it down to a single individual really putting in the work to, fix this situation as best as they can. And there are parts where you hear like that cop is like, he's like unraveling at times, and having
Yeah.
to put himself back together. And there's something to me, I don't know, that when I was watching the body cam footage, because there's a lot more than what was in the episode, but the stuff that I found compelling was that, like, to me, it really humanized him as, like, I think that it's very human to feel like that level of concern or shame or passion and anger towards someone over such a disturbing situation. And I didn't really touch on it in the episode, but I just started to imagine, like, I wonder what led to him being so attached. Maybe there's something in his past, that's motivated him in this way. And so, yeah, no, that was an episode that really stood out to me a lot recently.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just, and I said this before, and it feels like I'm glazing you, and that's not the intent. I'm just, I'm such a fan of your work that it's one of those deals where I'm like vicariously living through these episodes, just listening and just wondering, like, dude, what is this guy? How is this guy able to do this? Like, it's scary how, one, you are able to stay so professional throughout the whole process. You don't get emotionally invested on, on the recording. Like, you were able to just go about business, do the factual things, don't let all the other noise get a hold of you, and just do what you do at such a high level. Because I mean, I don't listen to any other true crime pods. I came across yours. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I love them. That's where we're at now. And it's kind of like eating steak your whole life, right? And you're like, hey, do you want to go get like a hamburger? It's like, nah, bub, I'm good. I don't really have a reason to do that.
Hey, sorry, you're kind of breaking up here for a second.
Oh,
Sorry, let me see what's going on with the audio.
yeah, you're
Hey,
kind
are
of
you there?
crackling yourself there. Yeah, you're good.
Mm.
Oh, hold on. He'll come back. So his internet took a poopsies. Yeah, yeah. He had a little hiccup there. He will come back. Um, there we go. All right. Well, Justin is back from the Shadow Realm. I hope. Give it a moment.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we're good. You're back from the Shadow Realm.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what
It
happened.
happens.
Anyway,
No,
sorry, what were you saying?
I was just saying it's just really cool how you're able to stay so professional in the topics that you do. Now, I don't know if anyone in the chat really checked out your show yet. I don't know. But as you do, if you do, you should. Honestly, it's well worth your time. You stay very neutral, which is even before Kiddo, but now especially post Kiddo with some of the things that have you've navigated too, I guess. I don't know how you do it, man. I really don't. Like, it's like,
Yeah,
what?
so for me, before I started my true crime podcast, and this was pretty early on when I started it, there was only like a handful
Right.
of other true crime podcasts, and I was disappointed to some degree by the selection. There was, and I'm going to butcher his last name. It was like Dan Zupensky anyway. I
That is the
liked
most
his.
Pittsburgh last name possible, so you know.
Yeah, it was like Dan Zupansky, or I can't remember his last name, how to pronounce it exactly, but he was the more underrated of the early guys. He was actually the first one to it, because for me, he stayed objective and neutral. But I
Mhm.
found that all the other true crime podcasts, they were always giving sort of like their insight, their opinion, like every step of the way, like through the case. And for me, like when they would go on these side tangents, I would just be like, please get back to the case details,
Right.
And so, early on when I was creating the podcast, sometimes I would catch myself, in the very early episodes, inserting my opinion a little too often, and I would stop myself though. And then now these days, yeah, I try to remain as neutral as possible with coverage when possible. There are cases that I cover because of the nature of the case will require some level of input. There was the case I'm trying to think of her name off the top of my head. She was Sonia Massey. She was the one that lifted the spaghetti pot and then got shot by the police
Yeah.
officer.
Oh, Christ. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
you know what's
That's
funny? When I
sad.
covered that, and I said, based on what I saw, like what I can see with my eyes, it did not feel justified, like a justified shooting to me. I
Right.
got some heat even for that, because the thing about covering that kind of case, at the end of the day, you have to explain what you saw, right?
Right.
And then just the other day, he was given 20 years in prison because it wasn't a justified shooting. So I feel, even when you try to remain as neutral as possible, sometimes there are cases where you do have to give some sort of input, right? Because people are divided like 50-50 on what they saw. And I can only tell in certain cases, I can only explain, my objective reality.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, God forbid you run a show and do all the research and do all the work and the time equity and the sweat equity that you have an opinion. Like that's a weird take to give someone, guff about, this is one of the few times where I'm going to go ahead and let folks know what I really think. And then for them to come back and say, well, how dare you? What are you doing? Like,
Yeah, no, but for the most part, I do try to remain journalistic, and even that sometimes gets taken the wrong way.
mhm.
I've had there'll be Spotify comments or something I'll get a notification about, and I think there was the one case I covered recently, the lady from Miami, and the first part of the episode when I'm covering her history and sort of what her childhood was like, people took that as defense of what she did later on. It's like,
Right.
no, that's never the case. I'm just giving you an objective chronology of her childhood. That's it. That's literally all it is.
I mean, and it's one of those things, right? Like there's that whole saying, you don't really ever want to know how the hot dog is made or whatever the saying is. Well, sometimes you kind of want to know how the crazy gets made. So at least you can in the vein that you do your show, um understand some of the things that led up to this or could have led up to this. I that's very interesting because I'm a puzzle guy, right? I don't care about the start and the end. I can go find that really quick. But the digging into, well, we're at step 6 right now. What were step 2, 3, 4, and 5? Like how did we get there? And that's, and I understand people can somehow take that as you being sympathetic to, the murder or whatever, whatever happened there. I've never taken it like that. I believe you were just telling the story of the person because you do the same for the victim. You're like, hey, here's what happened, and I think that's important. Um, you just approach it in such an interesting way that you really do paint a picture. Um, so I know I asked you something kind of like this before. Um, maybe things change. It's been about 3 years. Anything that you are either desiring to work on that certain things are not letting you work on, or is there something that you're just refusing to touch that maybe you have said that earlier and now you're like, well, I've kind of softened on that. Is there anything kind of on the horizon that's like, okay, this is the big one?
Yeah, there are some cases, that I've wanted to do for a long time, but due to the nature of these cases, um, I haven't really committed the time because you know, a lot of the times these might end up being 3, 4, 5-part episodes.
Hmm.
I did a 4-part series one time on these two killers. They were like two of the most famous killers. I think it was like in the 40s. And the two decided to do like a joy killing to commit like the perfect crime, essentially, was the idea.
Hmm.
It was like considered like the trial of the century at the
Yeah,
time and
I
everything.
remember this episode.
Yeah. So the thing is, though, that went on for like 4 parts, and each part was like 50 minutes long. And I could tell by the fourth part, like some people were like, all right, I'm ready for the next case, like I'm ready to get to that next case. And so, yeah, sometimes it could be a bit difficult deciding so there are certain cases that I would love to plunge into, but I know some people don't have the patience for those longer extended takes. Like some people like one or two parts, and that's where they max out.
I don't know, man. There's nothing like a good story. Um, yeah, see, that's fun, man. I don't mind that at all. I like that. Like it feels like like a novella, you know.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think about that sometimes too. As we talked about, I've done this for a while now. My first initial start was in 2017, and then I had a reboot in 2018. And I think about sometimes I'm like, I wonder if you put all my episodes together, like how many books that would be like on a shelf. You know what I
hmm,
mean? Sometimes I think about that, like in that like perspective.
what's your what's your body count? No, well, what's your episode count? Would you say if you had to kind of ballpark it?
I think I looked at it pretty recently on the Patreon, and it was somewhere between like 500 to 600 episodes altogether.
Good lord! Oh my god,
hmm
that
Yeah,
is so many hours.
I used to put like a number count. There are some
Yeah.
old episodes you give me, but what started happening was there had been several reboots throughout the years where I'm like, man, I don't want people to go back to this episode because
Okay.
I've improved so much. And so finally, I just stopped tracking them, and now I just, I put a title on there, and that's it.
I mean, from the first time we did this conversation, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I was recording in my dining room on a cell phone. Um, Absolutely just an ass clown. Now I'm just partially an ass clown, so that's good. I've upgraded to a Mac. Um, I know I asked you this before, but now we actually have people listening. So surprise, it's fun. What's the worst case you've done?
The worst case I've done is, you know,
To
I've
you,
taught.
not like overall, just objectively, like the worst one for you.
Well, so I'm going to mix it up a little bit because I have a usual episode I pick, and I know last time, I mentioned a specific case, but I want to, anyone that's listening to it, if they want to get that answer, uh,
Mm-hmm.
they can go listen to the old episode. I have a new episode I covered in which, when I covered it definitely shook me recently, like to the point that when I was covering it, like there were points during the research period where I was literally, crying at points. Like, and that doesn't happen very often recently. Like, I've kind of gotten thick skin over the years,
I would
but
hope so. Good lord.
but I think that having the kid and everything, it had me in a particularly soft space. The Jessica Lunsford case I covered recently. She was the 9-year-old that was kidnapped from her bedroom, and it was like such a brutal and awful crime that it literally changed the laws in Florida. Like it was like that awful of like a crime that Florida changed their laws, and then those laws being changed in Florida had such an effect that it changed laws across the country, and it's called the Lunsford Act. And so a case is particularly bad when it's literally changing things from a legislative standpoint. So yeah, that one relatively recently. I think I covered it a few months ago now. Um, that's one that had me pretty shaken.
Well, I have a follow up for that, but there's a question here. So, have you done the Joseph? Oh, I'm from Pittsburgh. I should be able to nail this last name, but it ain't gonna happen. Polinsky, I guess, is the pronunciation there.
No, I haven't. I will say that most of the cases I cover, about 90%, there is 10% that is outside of this, but I would say, 85 to 90% of the cases I cover are in Florida. And the reason for that is I'm very much a write what you know kind of person. And so when I'm covering specific cities, it makes me feel more comfortable writing about cases from Florida because I've been all throughout this state. I'm very knowledgeable about Florida, so I can write what I know. I believe that's a Stephen King piece of advice, to write what you know. And sometimes when I'm writing about cases from out of state, I can feel a little uncomfortable writing about those cities. It feels a little fake at time. Like I'll find myself, doing some research about the cities through other people's experiences on YouTube or whatever, but
Smart.
it feels less authentic.
No, that's smart. I mean, that I completely understand. I mean, because it's hitting close to home, and you're probably going to hear more through the grapevine, locally. So that makes sense.
Oh, you know
Um,
what though?
yeah.
I did want to mention something. So you're talking about cases on the horizon.
Hmm.
There is a case I've always wanted to put together, and again, it's a time type of thing,
Okay.
but it's a case that I have direct connection to. So if you Google it, it's called the Deltona Baseball Bat Massacre. Now, I grew up in Deltona, and one of the killers was one of my friends.
Good
Um,
Lord.
yeah, he stayed at my house quite a few times. He used to stay the night, and it was a pretty brutal massacre. Like him and several of his friends broke into a house, and they did some pretty horrific crimes to like 4 or 5 people. And he's on death row here in Florida. And the thing is, if I ever covered it, I wouldn't mind getting an interview with him. The person I was friends with, his name is Michael Salas, and yeah, he sits on death row.
Interesting. That would have to be like an emotional roller coaster a little bit, right? Like,
Well, what's interesting is I'm so removed from my teenage years that my sort of my tertiary friends like that, like the ones that they kind of stayed in my teenage years. I feel less close at this point. Like I'm so removed from that period. The ones that I stuck around with and what have you. If it was about someone more recent, yeah, I think I would feel more emotional. But
okay.
I have always felt like a desire to cover that just because I do have a direct relation to it.
So what's stopping you?
Again, yeah, it's a time thing because I would like to do some interviews and everything. And the way that my schedule works with the podcast is okay. So this last month was a little light because I was under the weather.
Yeah, I saw
So
that.
I only got like 5 or 6 episodes released, but often, I'll get like 7 or 8 episodes, dropped on the Patreon, and I kind of pride myself in keeping that Patreon feed
I
busy.
was gonna say you were insanely consistent. Like, I'm like, all right, looks like Tuesday I'm gonna be depressed. Cool,
Yeah.
great. Wait. No, that and to kind of go off topic, I think that's one of the biggest things about doing a successful podcast is having consistency. And you almost like to a fault or apologetic when something like that happens, like you feel like you let folks down. I think that's really kind of a really cool way to approach it. And even though I'm saying it's to a fault, it's more tongue in cheek, but um just shows that you really care about what you're doing, and the folks that dedicated time and money and all that to you. I think that's just really cool. I
Yeah,
know
I
that.
mean,
Go ahead.
for me, it comes from, I spent so many years of my life. I worked as a security officer, and sometimes I'd work 12-hour doubles to where I do two 12-hour shifts.
Good Lord.
And there wasn't a lot of excuses to be made when you were under the weather or whatever. I worked for the Port of Tampa, and so you couldn't just like call out last second type of thing, or if somebody was sick, you'd have to stay in for them. And I think it just gave me like a certain work ethic. So I think like a lot of creators, once they start making money in their field, they'll sort of take it easy. But
Right.
I just I don't have that in me. Like I always want to stay active and working on the show. To me, every day I punch in like it's a job, 5 days a week. That's the way I look at it.
Is this your gig? Like, or do you have like a side thing or?
No, I haven't. I haven't worked, in like a regular 9 to 5 since uh, 2017. Or yeah,
Love it.
yeah, 2017. Yeah, because I had saved up about 10 grand when I decided that I was going to take a shot at doing a podcast. In 2017, I initially started it.
Hmm.
I was so bad at it at the start, like I was using a really cheap mic and everything. I deleted everything. I rebooted it in 2018, and then that's around when the podcast started getting traction because I took everything I learned early on and restarted.
That's awesome, man. Because it that's always been that's always the goal, right? You do this. I mean, I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I have three separate shows I do. Um, and that's the goal. Like, you want to have fun with it. You want to do X, Y, Z, yada yada yada. But like at the end of the day, you're like, hey, this would be really neat if this could be my job. So anyone is wondering, well, Justin's proof you can actually do it. Stoney has a question. Are you a fan of any or get any influence from any true crime TV shows, Dateline, Forensic Files, XYZ, things like that?
Yeah, I have a wide range of influences. Some of them I don't even particularly like these days, but um, and actually I don't really consume any true crime content outside of what I create these days. But when I was younger, the early stuff was Rescue 911 and
Oh
Unsolved
my
Mysteries.
God. Oof. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I would watch that stuff and it would feel like I was watching like forbidden television that I wasn't supposed to be watching. It'd scare the crap out of me. And then there was what is it called? The one America's Most Wanted. I would
Yeah.
watch that. Then yeah, as the years went on, there was Forensic Files, of course. There was something like FBI Files or something like that. I would watch.
Sounds about
Uh,
right.
then okay, so two of the other big the big influences though, there's and most people haven't heard about this these days. There is Autopsy with
They're
Dr.
just
Bodden.
they were just talking about it. They're saying the HBO autopsy thing, yeah.
Oh wow, okay, wow. I just saw that in the comments just now. So yeah, HBO's Autopsy with Dr. Bodden. That right there is probably a big influence on Black Label on a subconscious level
Okay.
because so that would air on HBO way back in the day, And what was unique about it is this like existed during the sort of like more punk days of HBO, and they would show, I mean, they would show like gore on HBO, like they would show like pretty explicit stuff on HBO's Autopsy. It was pretty intense. Basically, I would say it's the most intense true crime television show ever created, and there hasn't been anything else like it since. Then another influence I discovered Peter Sotos, and I don't defend his content really. I think he kind of shows like where you can sort of cross that line in a way. But there is stuff that I took influence from in his work, and I can't deny that. I don't know if you know who Peter Sotos is.
Yeah, I'm not sure, no.
So he's sort of a grandfather of true crime. He
Okay.
got started in an experimental noise band, but then he had a side project that basically was like the early days of modern true crime. Because there was stuff that predated it. Think like In Cold Blood, like the book that was released, and you know. But what Peter Sotos was doing, he was sort of experimenting with the form, and he would collect all these police files. And what eventually happened, and this is where it gets murky because it's like he said, she said, but according to him, from collecting all these police files, he was arrested on CSAM, because he had pictures in there of children, like they were actual case files. So he
Okay.
got arrested for that. And again, it's according to him. I don't know the full story. But what I'll also say is that there's an element to his work where I would say that it appears that he is enjoying himself a little too much, and it makes me a little uncomfortable.
As
I
it
can't
should.
Yeah. I came close to interviewing him when I lived in Indiana because he would have been a short drive away. He lives over in Chicago, and that sort of fell through. But just because he's sort of an elusive guy, like I'd like to know like what is the intention of like a lot of his work because yeah, I would say of all the true crime that you can consume, his will leave you the most like uncomfortable because it's difficult to know what his intentions are. And that's where I sort of
See,
struggle with
that's
it.
not fun, man. That's not fun. Your stuff for the. All right, I'm going to say this is it's going to sound bad, but I promise you it's not meant to. Your stuff is uncomfortable. A lot of your stuff is uncomfortable, but it's because of the content, not I don't foresee you sitting there smiling like then she had her head cut off. You're like, ha 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 ha. No one that listens to you is thinking that. But how that other person is being portrayed, it almost feels like they got a little weird sadistic grin to them, and that is no bueno.
Yeah, one of the things I'm not a fan of personally, it's another thing that bothers me about true crime, is I'm not a huge fan of people that sort of create anti-heroes with
Okay.
true crime. And part of why when I have the information available, when I can find it in case files or what have you, because a lot of times they'll see a criminal psychologist during the case, so it'll give me a lot of insight on their childhood. The reason why I like to include that stuff is it destroys the possibility of creating a myth. A lot of times you can see like, oh, this person was very much abused as a child. You know, this person went through some really awful stuff, and that's what created this person that went on to do this thing. And so it's sort of it's a demystifying effect. Whereas, yeah, I do feel like some true crime, like the way that the coverage works, they're creating these strange anti-heroes, and you've seen the effect of that recently. A lot of people get like serial killer tattoos. If
Right.
anything, I like to humanize them before I explain what they did that was monstrous.
Yeah, and unfortunately people are somewhat easily swayed, and you have to kind of toe that line because the last thing you want to do is be kind of partnered up with like, oh, well, he's a sympathizer of a mass murderer. It's like, no, no, I'm just explaining to you at some point in life, this dude was an actual, like, seemingly level headed person. Then the train derailed, and now we're here. So Chris wanted to know, do you watch Law and Order SVU and kind of things like that?
No, my wife loves SVU though. She
Okay.
absolutely loves it. But I will say I do enjoy reading crime and mystery. Lawrence Block is a great author. I like Richard Stark's The Hunter series, which then got turned into that movie with Mel Gibson, Payback. But as a whole series, there's like 20 or 30 books. Those are all great. And I even like there's some good crime fiction comics. There's this French crime fiction comic. It's called Black Sad. That one's really good. But yeah, of like the TV shows, um, yeah, for the most part, like I did like The Wire a lot. That was really good. But a lot of like the Law and Order and stuff like that, no, I don't follow that.
Okay. You a fan of horror movies?
Yeah, no, I am a fan of horror movies. Like it's kind of interesting because I'm a big fan, but I like this is the way I'll put it. To me, like that is one of the genres that's the easiest to please me, but I also recognize that there's only like one or two good horror movies that come out a
I
year.
saw you posted that. Yeah.
And it's the struggle, right? Like because I'll find myself being easier sometimes on horror movies because of that fact. Because again, like when you really look back through history, there's like one or two worth keeping each year that came out. But you know, occasionally you do get some really good stuff in that genre. There's a Japanese sort of crime horror hybrid that I saw recently. I'd never seen it, and it immediately jumped up to one of my favorite horror slash crime movies. It's called Cure, and I would recommend it to like anyone.
Interesting. So one of my favorite horror movies, because yeah, I'm pretty much horror bust. I could care less about everything kind of else. And unfortunately, I'm almost like a pretentious movie goer because I don't really see a lot, but it's usually just horror. I double down on the horror thing. The problem is I'm so finicky about it. Like I want the villain to win. Um like I don't want there to be a final girl. I want the final girl to be cut in half. That's what I want to happen in my horror movie, not in my real life, but in my horror movie kind of because it unfortunately a lot of these things are so predictable. And I get it, like you're there for the ride, but I'm almost like a snob in that way. Like my favorite horror movie, and I don't even know if it's horror movie, and really the fact that it's my favorite probably lends to why I'm such a big fan of you. It's Martyrs.
Oh, that's a great,
Fucking love it.
that's a great film. Yeah, I'm a big defender of that movie because people try to write it off, and I'm like, no, there's a lot going in there. I've had like hours long discussions about that movie with my friend who I watch a lot of movies with because like the end is so incredible to that movie,
Yeah,
and it's kind of a shame because a lot of people only watch it on like a certain surface level, but there's a lot going on there, you know.
it is fantastic. Real quick, switching gears here. Um, Probably not a lot of folks. Well, I can't say that. You had a secondary show. It was called Disaster, and you kind of just cut it off at the knees. And I know we talked about this before because that's correct. That's kind of right when it was kind of in the middle of its life cycle. We didn't know it was the middle of its life cycle at that point, but um, I'm assuming that's dead and buried now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wish that it wasn't. The problem is that this is the way I would put it. Imagine you had two running shows,
Yeah.
and one of those shows is getting 40 to 50% of the listens, right?
Okay.
And so I had to make a decision that instead of doing that, I'll just create more of Obscura, you know? Because my idea with Disaster, I really liked the idea, and I do think that it's a pretty unique show to go back
Yeah.
and listen to. But my idea with Disaster was to cover natural disasters the way that I do true crime, and chronologically, cover it, even before the whatever is happening is going to happen, and then work my way through the disaster and then the fallout. And yeah, I kind of liked where that you know how that worked out. I had a few episodes that I'm really proud of. One of them I kind of instituted into a Obscura episode. And what's weird is I think a few other podcasts have now covered it, and it's become kind of a popular case. But when I covered it, it was not. It was that woman who drowned in her car, and then the
Oh
911
yeah,
operator.
yeah. Oh my god. Listen, just really quick. I don't I don't mean to cut you off here. I asked the wife about this because she's a medical professional. She doesn't have to deal with 911 at all. But how these people talk to these people in these distressing situations infuriate me. I That lady on the line was the absolute worst. I wanted her to be in the car. Oh,
Yeah, I think so. A lot of them are told to keep a neutral tone, but her issue is that she was
mm,
passive aggressive, which
yeah.
was very strange behavior. I have like one of my best friends. He's a palliative care nurse, and he listened to that episode, and he even was like, "Yeah, dude, that's absurd."
I Yeah, that because once again, because of what you do and how you do it, you are able to put yourself in that situation. You're able to visualize the whole thing. And I'm just seeing this broad put with her feet up, chewing gum, looking at her nails like this lady that is not well is in this car and she's scared. And you are almost chuckling and making fun of her.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's pretty brutal, and she really didn't get in much trouble because she was already quitting anyway.
yeah. Yeah. How long ago was that?
I couldn't tell you at this point. I'm so bad with time. I wasn't even aware that it had been a few years since we last talked. I'm like, oh, that wasn't like 8 months ago.
Fair. I'm curious how that would have went over in the current society we live in.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I can't imagine she can have a social media presence.
Hell, actually, you might there was something that just happened locally like yesterday. Um, so somebody was driving down the parkway, hit ice, hit a snowbank, and went into the Monongahela River, and drowned.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, like they somehow they ramped up the snowbank and dropped like 50 feet into the river, a frozen river, but the car busted through the ice and she was submerged for about an hour. I mean, obviously she's dead, but yeah, it's getting like national coverage now, and it's kind of wild, man. Um,
Yeah. No, that kind of stuff um, terrifies me. But I'm a little sad that I couldn't continue doing the show because I am a fan of natural disaster coverage, and I feel
yeah,
like it's sort of something that hasn't been it's not like a common thing. But I think that's also part of the reason why it wasn't as successful is because it's such a niche interest.
yeah. I mean, I get it, man. Like going from what you got going there, and then taking kind of like a pseudo side quest, but I think that's still interesting. I think that's I definitely enjoyed it. I mean, it I think it's almost in a weird way almost a palate cleanser to a degree.
Yeah,
It's like diet obscura.
yeah, yeah.
Um like you could almost listen to that in the car with people and them not think that you're gonna, murder them after the drive. Um so Ramsey would like to know, how much does it cost to sub to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for the base level, it's only like $3, like just to subscribe and listen to Black Label and what have you. There are different levels, but yeah, no, I just put it at like $3, and that'll get you access to a pretty massive library. I mean, I don't even know how many hours of true crime podcasts that get you access to, but I'll just say a lot.
I mean, you said you got what, 600 episodes, you go about an hour each, right? Like, well, give or
It just
take.
depends. It depends
Yeah.
on the case. I don't really have like a set. Sometimes they're 25 minutes. Sometimes they're 45 minutes. Sometimes they're over an hour. There's been 90-minute episodes. There's been 25-minute. Yeah. I kind of don't set like a standard on purpose.
Well, no, you can't. I mean, God, I mean, some of these things are insanely layered, and then some are kind of just, hey, here's the factual checkpoints of events. Well, there you go. There, Ramsey's going to sign up. So yeah, do it. Get as much content in as you can, but also just be aware. Give yourself breaks, because your head is not meant to consume all of that at long periods of time. Um, so how's the kiddo, man? Like, talk about being a dad. What's like, how's that transition been?
No, it's been great. She's going to be 11 months old here soon,
Yeah,
almost at the year point. And no, it's life changing. It absolutely is. I'm just a lot happier in general
nice.
because throughout my life I've had struggles with depression, and one of the problems with that is that like medication doesn't really seem to work for me. I experience too much in the side effect category.
Okay.
And anytime I've tried to take anything, I just have absolutely horrific side effects. So I don't really mess with medication. But I'm telling you, the baby's been like, I haven't been depressed at all. Like
So the
it's
baby has been your Prozac, basically.
yeah, it's just I really do think like I know there's like a million articles beamed into everyone's heads that tell you a million reasons why you shouldn't have kids or whatever, but I will say I do think there's something to it. It really is. It does give you like a sense of like duty, but also love that's difficult to describe until you've experienced it.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, I don't know if you want to share this or not, but how old are you?
Oh, I'm 38 years old.
Oh man, God, young people. I say that I'll be 40 this year.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's crazy because you just got an 11-month-year-old. I got fucking A, man. I got a The one kiddo is going to turn 21 this year, and the other one's going to turn 16.
Oh yeah, you got started young, huh?
So that was honestly, that was the plan. That was the plan. I'm like, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're 19. Let's have a kid. You sure? Yeah, let's do it. Promise it'll be fine. It'll make perfect sense. It's good. So then, like, when we're older, we can go do stuff that we want to do. Yeah, I mean, yeah, to a degree, but then we're like, oh shit, they cost money. Oof. All right, hold on here. Can we I swear to God, this is actually a comment that I made to her like on day 3, because anyone that has a bit that has had a child, you realize they're like, yeah, you want to sleep? Oh yeah, no, that's silly. That's not gonna happen. Um, it was day 3, and I looked at her. I was like, can we put him back in? Like, is that a thing? Is that allowed? Um, what's been your biggest struggle with the kiddo kind of in 11 months? Like, what have you, like, I
Oh
know the
man.
normal things, but like you personally, what is the thing that's been like, oh my God, I can't.
Yeah, no. So for me, like, I would say about a month in, I almost passed out from the lack of sleep. Those first 3 months are pretty hard,
Yep.
and I think like as a dad, my wife came home and she was exhausted, and she had like a C-section. It was a pretty hard pregnancy, and so
Okay.
for like that first month, I was pretty much in charge as far as like the baby goes. And by the end of the month, I was so exhausted. I mean, I was only sleeping like 45-minute clips, kind of thing. The
Yeah.
baby would be up like once an hour, and yeah, what's funny too. If I had had the baby when I was younger, I would have been I would have tanked that stuff. Like my like 20s Justin had so much stamina for staying up all the time. I don't know what's wrong with me, but sometimes I'd stay up for 2 days at a time just for the heck of it. But to have a baby and you're like 38, and you're only getting like 45 minutes of sleep at a time, yeah, dude, I almost passed out one time straight up. Like I saw for the first time in my life, I saw the room spinning, and I always heard that term, but I did not know it was a literal experience. Because yeah, the room just went topsy turvy, and I almost went down.
Jesus. So are you a one and done fella, or have you even thought of like down the road anything, adding to, or
Yeah, if a second, the way that I look at it with the second is if a second comes, that's fine. If not, I can live with that. Like I'm happy. I got my baby. I have my daughter, and if that's it, that's fine. Um, because she's already changed my life, and I can just spoil the hell out of her. The way
yeah,
that I look at it, it's kind of funny because I had like the reverse experience you did. Where I'm at now, I'm like 38. I'm a new dad. Um, I've already done all the, you know what I mean. I've done all the stuff. I've done.
fair?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, sorry. I thought you were broken up. But yeah, I've already done, all the single guy stuff, and I've traveled and I've done all those things. And like I'm at an age now where I'm like I'm just ready to be a homebody. I'm just ready to
yeah.
raise my daughter and, you know, live like a boring life. I'm happy to do that.
Dude, being 40 and having a boring life is elite. You kidding me? Like, I showed you the picture of it being crazy snowed in, and I made the kind of the joke, but not really the joke of like, I'm not really leaving the house anyway. I go to work, come home, whatever. And then other days I just work at home, whatever. But the fact that I can't leave is depressing and pissing me off. Like, I wasn't going to, but like the universe and the weather saying you can't, it's like, oh, but I want to
Y-
go.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is like, when we decided to move back to Florida, we had already had some trouble with like our landlords. They were just
Yeah,
like,
I remember
they
you
were,
saying that. Yeah.
yeah, they were giving us some problems. And by the way, we're good tenants. Like we never miss a payment. Like, you know what I mean? But they were just giving us trouble. But I will also say, I had one foot out the door already. Like I was just ready to go. It was like October when we finally moved back to Florida. So
Hmm.
winter was knocking on the door, and
Right.
I had a sense of dread in my stomach because between Indiana and upstate New York, I had been up north for a while there, and I had really Florida's my home. That's the way I'll put it.
No, I mean, you know what? I've been trying to get down there. Not that I have any like super crazy desire for Florida. I just know that she loves Disney, and I'm like, hey, it's warm, and I'm old, and I don't want to deal with this anymore. So let's just do that. You can be happy. I can just I don't know, hang out with lizards, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what else you do in Florida. Um, Not the true crime defines you. It doesn't. But let's get you out of here on this. What else are you doing these days? Like what else tickles your proverbial fancy?
Yeah, like what do you mean in terms of like hobby?
Yeah, like because this is what we know of you. I don't need you to be insanely personal, but like you would think someone that covers this stuff. Well, actually, you wouldn't think. I guess just the curiosity in me is like, what else do you like? What else do you dig?
Yeah, I mean, recently my life has fallen into a bit of a routine that's a positive one. Um, but I work on the podcast throughout the week, and I'm also basically a stay-at-home dad. So while I'm working on it, I'm also raising my daughter. Then on Wednesdays,
Good
I
for
tend to
you,
go.
man. That's so. I'm sorry. That's just so cool because you never hear dudes being able to do that. So,
Yeah,
props to
yeah. And then on Wednesdays, I head to trivia with my friends, and go head out over there. And then usually there's like a couple days a month, like actually tonight is an example. I have a friend that come over. We do like a movie night. We usually drink like a 30 rack and just watch like a bunch of different movies or whatever. And for the most part, like other than that, it's boring stuff. Like just because a young kid does limit you. I do some reading. Recently, I've actually been reading some comics again, some old school ones. I have my iPad, and with the daughter, it can be difficult to take time for yourself. But what I find with like the comics versus like a full blown book, I can read a page or two, then put the iPad down, go play with the baby or whatever. And yeah, so yeah, I know that's kind of dull, but yeah, things are pretty, scheduled out. I'm pretty much in like a strict routine pattern right now. I'm sure as she gets older, that'll get shaken up a bit, but yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Hey, there's at the end of the day, like for anyone to critique, unless you're sitting here like, oh yeah, I've
So I've
been
been.
kind of taking apart squirrels in the backyard. It's like, okay, we're good here, we're done. No, that there's nothing wrong with that. Like it's. I was just curious if there were like anything because somebody wanted to know if you're a fan of sports.
Oh, I love basketball. Yeah, I'm an
Okay,
NBA guy.
okay,
Heat fan through and through. Um, yeah, I even when I was up north, I've been a Heat fan. When I was younger, I tried to get into the Magic, but the problem with the Magic is like when you have bad ownership, it just dooms you. And what happens with the Magic is
you're
like,
talking to a Pirates fan, so you know.
yeah, whenever the Magic gets someone worth owning, the second their stock goes up, they sell. They sell the person. So I've always looked at it as like the Magic, like they don't really have much of a future. So I'm a Heat diehard. Yeah.
Oh, I think we just became best friends because I'm like, oh my god, it's almost like you're a basketball Pirates fan. Love it. Oh, well, real quick, just for Ramsey's sake here, since he's going to sub and anyone else that wants to sub, do me a favor. Tell him how to step his toe in, like the episode to step his toe in, and then the one to absolutely shock him.
Yeah. No. And so like in terms of like dipping your toe in, the episodes I would recommend pretty recently is there's the Tina Brown episodes that I really enjoyed putting together, and I'm kind of proud,
Yeah.
like of how that turned out. Um, but in terms of if you want to be shocked, if you if that's really what you're looking for, I'll give you like an 8 on the extreme level, and say check out the Black Label episode, The Butcher. That one's pretty interesting because it's about the snuff industry, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it's not as hardcore as some of the ones I mentioned earlier, but it's still, if you're looking for a shocker, that one will shock you.
Yeah. Oh, damn, my brother, this was good, man. I don't want to like hold up your Saturday here, but this was as good as I expected it to be. It's always a joy to have you on. Um, I'm glad you post baby have not lost your mind, because that first year, I'm telling you, you can try to put him back in. Like that's always like this, you know. But yeah, I appreciate everyone in the chat participating here, asking questions. Tell everyone where to find you, when you drop episodes, all the things, do all the plugs.
Yeah, no, it's Obscura, a true crime podcast. You can find me wherever you get your podcasts, except for YouTube. I do have a few things thrown up there just for Google footprint. So when you search Obscura, it's more likely to show up on Google. But YouTube censors me, so they will not promote my videos. So
Wonder
I
why.
don't. Yeah, I get it. So anywhere but YouTube is where you can find me. You can check out the free podcast first, which there's a ton of content on there as well. You just got to deal with some ads or whatever. But other than that, you can also check out the Patreon if you feel incentivized to do so. And I pride myself on keeping it pretty cheap. It's $3 is cheaper than a cup of coffee these days.
And I know that I don't know which one I don't know if I'm doing the 12. I think I don't know. I'm doing a higher tiered one. You do send out stuff, which is pretty
I
cool.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
So,
random, and sometimes it's literally like, hey, I have like 200 things here. I'm going to send it out to a bunch of put your name here, and a bunch of random people are going to get it.
right.
Yeah, so yeah, I do sometimes send out some merch and stuff. Um, I used to sell through like Teespring and other merch things, but people were getting back to me and saying this stuff is so like cheap and badly put together. So
Oh,
I stopped selling through those people because those shirts are expensive too. Like people were paying $40 for like a piece of trash, so I stopped doing that.
that's no good. Well, good for you for not just taking the money and running, man. Once again, that's just admirable on you. All right. Well, folks, I appreciate it. Once again, thank you so much, Justin, for coming on, taking out some time of your Saturday here. And just, you guys have a good rest of the weekend, man.
Yeah, you take care.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.